in her interviews, she was like, you know, I just had to differ from what's real and what I thought was real. So you wrote a fiction book. Listen, I'm gonna read that bitch. I'm just excited because it's fake. It's fine. It's literally fine. It's all fake anyway. Gypsy, you're starting an uproar with families. I am so curious what all that you put in this book. That's why I want to read it. That's why I want to read it. I'm going to tell Dee Dee all the little lies that you're telling in there. I'm going to read them straight to her damn face. She's fine with it. She wants to know. She wants to know what you're lying about. I mean, we know everything, but we want to know details. I swear to God, Gypsy, for 30 damn bucks, this book better be fucking well written, I tell you that, because I like to read. I'm on the book talks. And seriously, Gypsy, we all know you don't fucking crochet.
Gypsy-Rose Blanchard's story has always been one that captures headlines. A tale of deception, tragedy, and resilience. But now, as she tries to write a new chapter in her life, the question isn't just whether the world is ready to embrace her transformation, but whether Gypsy herself can live up to the narrative she's trying to craft. From a public fallout over her new book to a lackluster interview performance, it seems her journey to redemption is hitting roadblocks at every turn. Gypsy wants to present herself as a survivor who has overcome her past, a soon-to-be mother eager to start anew, and an author sharing a deeply personal account of her struggles. However, reality tells a different story. Her book, My Time to Stand, has faced scathing reviews, with some readers calling it uninspired and hollow. Public protests have disrupted her promotional events, and her recent interview, which should have been a moment to inspire and connect with her audience, instead left many questioning her sincerity. This isn't just about a poorly received book, it's about a woman seemingly trapped in a narrative that no longer fits her reality. The pressures are mounting. Between the stress of her pregnancy, the aftermath of a recent divorce, and a public still unwilling to fully forgive or forget, Gypsy's efforts to rebuild her life appear to be faltering. A recent live discussion to promote her book offered a clear example. Rather than showcasing a poised and confident woman ready to inspire others, it revealed someone visibly burdened by the weight of her circumstances. Her demeanor was far from the enthusiastic, determined persona her team likely hoped to project, leaving the audience with more doubts than inspiration.
In the book is healing, which I think is absolutely wonderful to look through that lens. You've gone through so much at such a young age that people can't even imagine. Essentially, your identity was formed for you almost against your will, and in a lot of ways it was false. Going through betrayal, trauma, and prison. Can you tell us how you're overcoming a lot of that through this healing process?
Finding myself has been a journey. I felt like while I was in prison, I was trying on different identities, trying to find myself, but it wasn't until I actually got released and able to learn by experience, because that's how people learn, and that's how they learn about themselves. So by doing that and having those freedoms to go out and experience these things, I'm able to see how I react and discover more things about myself. So I'm not going to say that it's a I found myself, it's a journey.
Her interview was particularly telling. On paper, it should have been a powerful moment, a chance to reflect on her journey of resilience and connect deeply with her audience. Gypsy spoke about rediscovering herself during her incarceration, describing it as a time of self-exploration and growth. Yet, her delivery was anything but empowering. Her words felt rehearsed, her tone flat, and her emotions detached. Even when discussing her upcoming journey into motherhood, a topic typically filled with excitement and hope, she seemed distant, as if reciting lines rather than sharing a genuine experience.
These last 10 months since I've been released, and I am expecting a child, so I am going to be giving birth to my daughter in January, and so starting a family, just really getting on my feet. It's funny that it's titled that because it has so many meanings, because it also hits home not only when I was released from prison, but also now as well, that I'm starting to kind of.
The most striking dissonance came when Gypsy addressed her complicated relationship with her late mother. She painted a picture of betrayal, manipulation, and eventual relief, yet her tone lacked the emotional weight to truly connect with her audience. The gap between her words and delivery left viewers questioning whether she genuinely believes in the redemption story she's trying to sell, or if she's still struggling to find her place in a world that continues to scrutinize her every move. As Gypsy's attempts to rewrite her life's narrative face mounting challenges, it's becoming increasingly clear that this isn't just about a single misstep or a poorly executed book launch. It's a deeper exploration of whether redemption can be achieved when the past continues to overshadow the present. Whether she can rise above these challenges remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: Gypsy's journey is far from the fairy tale transformation she hoped to deliver. Gypsy's facial expressions and body language failed to convey the depth of her experiences. There were no visible signs of vulnerability or emotional authenticity, only a carefully constructed narrative that felt rehearsed and at times hollow.
The relationship with my mother and I was a good relationship when I was younger, and she's all I grew up knowing. And so in a sense, she was my best friend. And then in my later teen years, that's whenever I started to rebel and want more independence and freedom. And so that's whenever our relationship became like love and hate. And so it became more volatile. And after her passing and her death, it became where I missed her, but also I had a relief that I was no longer under her control. So a lot of people feel a sense of connection to their abuser, because they are under the belief they have been abused to the point that their belief system is that nobody else will love them. And so if you try to escape, or if you leave that abusive situation, nobody else in the world will want them or love them. And unfortunately, that's the toxic pull to an abuser and a victim.
This wasn't the Gypsy-Rose Blanchard people had anticipated seeing. Instead of radiating hope and empowerment, she appeared burdened, perhaps even overwhelmed by the weight of trying to sell a story that no longer feels entirely her own. It's important to recognize that the audience wasn't just listening to her words. They were observing how she delivered them. In this case, her presentation fell flat. The disconnect between her intentions and execution raises questions about the foundation of this entire campaign. Her memoir, My Time to Stand, was intended to be a platform for redemption, a chance to reclaim her story and reintroduce herself to the world. However, the overwhelmingly negative reviews suggest otherwise. Critics and readers alike have criticized the book for its lack of depth and repetitive content. Many feel Gypsy has avoided taking full accountability for her actions, continuing to lean heavily on the narrative of victimhood.
I don't know about you guys, but honestly, if I were her, I would be so terrified of some crazy person doing something stupid. So hopefully she has like bodyguards or something. People are nuts.
This reaction is unsurprising, given her history of using the abuse she endured at the hands of her mother, Dee Blanchard, as a shield against criticism. For those who hoped this book would mark a turning point in her public image, it has been a disappointment. The backlash isn't just about the book. It reflects directly on Gypsy herself. A memoir is supposed to provide an intimate, raw glimpse into the author's life, inviting readers into their world with honesty and vulnerability. When the content feels shallow, it creates a ripple effect, prompting audiences to question the authenticity of the person behind the words.
Well, I feel like I've lived a lot of life in these last 10 months since I've been released. And I am expecting a child, so I am going to be giving birth to my daughter in January. And so starting a family, just really getting on my feet. It's funny that it's titled that because it has so many meanings, because it also hits home not only when I was released from prison, but also now as well that I'm starting to find my footing in life. So I think prioritizing family right now is the most important thing that I'm doing right now.
That's right. And congratulations from all of us here at Premiere. We're so excited for you. That's such an amazing opportunity, and we're so happy for you.
Further adding to the controversy, Gypsy's decision to price her book signings between $35 and $40, along with additional fees for meet and greet opportunities, has drawn criticism. For a public still divided on whether to see her as a victim or manipulator, these prices feel tone-deaf. To many, it appears she's capitalizing on her infamy rather than offering genuine engagement. The challenges don't end there. Gypsy's promotional events have become lightning rods for public outrage. Instead of being spaces where fans can connect with her story, these events have turned into battlegrounds for opposing narratives. On one side, Gypsy as a survivor seeking redemption. On the other, Gypsy as someone who has yet to take full responsibility for her actions. Increasingly, the latter perspective is gaining traction. Protesters have gone so far as to plan vigils for Dee Blanchard outside Gypsy's book signings. Whether you agree with the protesters or not, their presence sends a clear message. Not everyone is ready to forgive or forget. This opposition undermines the carefully constructed image Gypsy is attempting to project and highlights the deep divisions in how the public views her. In the end, Gypsy's attempts at redemption through her book and public appearances seem to be faltering under the weight of skepticism, unresolved questions, and an audience unwilling to let go of the past.
The protest for Dee. It's going to be held at the bookstore. I posted on TikTok, I posted the where and the how and all that. Are you going? Like, who's going? Is anybody that's watching right now going? Like, if you are, let me know. I want to know if you're going. And what you're going to do. Like, are you going to dress up like Dee Dee, or are you going to hold a sign, or what's going on? Like, what are you going to do? I'm very curious. I'd love to know.
The question remains, can she truly rebuild her life? Or will her efforts to control her narrative crumble under the scrutiny of a world that refuses to move on? This is a crucial turning point for gypsy-rose Blanchard because it strikes at the core of her message. She wants to present herself as someone who is healed, someone who has moved forward. But how can she achieve that when the public continually drags her past into the spotlight? This backlash is more than just an inconvenience. It's a public relations catastrophe. One bookstore hosting a signing event had to assure attendees that security and police would be present, a move that only amplifies the tension surrounding her appearances. The mere necessity of such measures speaks volumes about how the public perceives her. What should have been a celebratory book launch has instead morphed into a spectacle of controversy. For a book already struggling to gain traction, this kind of attention is doing more harm than good. Now, let's shift focus to Gypsy's personal life, because in her case, the personal and professional are deeply intertwined. Gypsy is currently pregnant with her first child, a life-changing event that carries its own set of challenges. Pregnancy is physically, emotionally, and mentally taxing, and for someone already under intense public scrutiny, the added pressure of impending motherhood can easily become overwhelming. On top of that, Gypsy recently finalized her divorce. Court footage from the proceedings showed her visibly unhappy, a stark contrast to someone who might feel relief at closing a chapter. This suggests that the divorce, rather than providing closure, has added yet another layer of emotional strain to her already tumultuous life. It's no wonder, then, that Gypsy seemed so disconnected during her recent interview. Juggling her past, professional challenges, and personal struggles, it's clear something had to give. And in her case, it appears to be her ability to genuinely connect with her audience. This connection is essential for making her book a success, but it seems to be slipping through the cracks. Taking a step back to view the bigger picture reveals a troubling pattern. Negative reviews of her book, protests at her events, the emotional toll of pregnancy, and the aftermath of her divorce, these are not isolated events. They are interconnected pieces of a larger puzzle. Gypsy's attempt to rebuild her image hinges on the success of her book, but poor reception and public backlash have made that goal nearly unattainable. As professional struggles pile up, they inevitably bleed into her personal life, further affecting her ability to present herself authentically. It's a vicious cycle, with each challenge feeding into the next, creating a domino effect that leaves Gypsy struggling to keep up. Despite her efforts to project resilience, what the public is witnessing is someone barely holding it together. So, what's the real takeaway here? Gypsy-Rose Blanchard is trying to reclaim her life, but the public isn't ready to let her. Her interview was supposed to promote her book, but instead revealed her vulnerabilities, both personal and professional. The scathing reviews, protests, her pregnancy, and her divorce all combine to paint a picture of someone who isn't as in control as she'd like us to believe. Gypsy wants to be seen as a beacon of strength and redemption, but the reality is far more complex. This isn't just about whether her book succeeds or fails. It's about whether she can genuinely reinvent herself, or if the shadows of her past will forever eclipse her future. As always, would love to hear your thoughts. Is Gypsy's struggle a sign of her being overwhelmed by her circumstances? Or is this a failure of her own making? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Crusher takes on today's biggest stories.